Welcome to the Confidence in Singing podcast, where you can reclaim your voice and rediscover the joy of singing. I'm Aideen, and my guests include singers and voice experts who share their insights and journey to encourage singing for health, happiness, and fun. To support this podcast and join the Confidence in Singing community, just click on the Patreon link below. Welcome to Imelda Kehoe. I'm so happy that you're here on our podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Aideen. It's great. Nice to see you as well.
You too. Yeah, I'm going to just introduce you a little bit for any listeners who don't know who you are. Imelda Kehoe is an Irish contemporary folk singer-songwriter. She has created her own style, which is influenced by folk blues and elements of soul. Her songs are melody rich, full of stories, life experiences, written with the listener at heart and with a definite world music feel. I love your music, Imelda. Your first album, I was listening to it in the car only last week on a little road trip down to my granny's house. And I just love it. One thing I think that really resonates from that bio is, the full of stories part. I love the stories that you bring in your music. So I'm so happy you decided to join us and share more about your journey with singing.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. So tell me more about where you're at today. What is Imelda Kehoe doing right now?
Well, I've just finished my second album. It's now in the process of being mastered. Around Christmas time, I was signed to a record label called Thoroughbred Music, and they're based in England, but have distribution globally. So obviously that was a massive thing to get that kind of industry endorsement. Yeah. And now the album is in the final stages of mastering, and then we'll get it all together, have a listen, make sure the running order is right, and then we'll decide which ones to release first before the album itself. So that's where I am at the moment. But actually I'm writing again. I finished one album, but I'm writing probably an EP, I'd say. But I never stopped writing.
Wonderful. I'm so excited about the album, and we've got an exclusive sneak peek into the album today before the official release. So really excited to share one of your songs, and that's really great for me and for our listeners. But I'm interested about what you said there about how you're writing already again. What is it about the music that it's almost like it's calling to you, that you're like, you can't put it down even for like a few weeks after the album's finished? You're already back in.
Yeah, I think as humans we need to tap into our creative side. I think some people do it through art or dance or acting or any other thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be performing arts. It could be any kind of creative thing. It could be gardening or anything. But I think as humans, we are driven. It's part of being a whole person, I think, isn't it, to want to do that? And for me, it's very important. I always try and make time for that in my life. So I usually can't wait to get to it. I can't wait to get to the piano, to start writing something. Or over the last year, I've actually learned how to use a digital audio workstation a little bit. Now, not to the point where I'd be producing my own songs, but I can put tracks together, and I can do a little bit of first stage arrangement, and that's given me a huge step forward, because I'm not dependent on other people to help me with the creative development of the song. Because I don't play guitar, I play piano very badly. But enough to get something down. And once you can play on a MIDI keyboard, then you're straight into a digital audio workstation, and it's
That's
easier.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And the new songs are, I wouldn't say they're different, but they're another. The last few songs that ended up on the second album, which will be released, these new songs are kind of a continuation of those, I think. So yeah, it's
Do you mean a continuation in terms of the story of the, like, is it like when you say continuation, what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is the kind of the style that I was starting to develop, and I've tried different genres of music over the last few years. And my first album did have a few different genres, I suppose you could say, but I don't. It's very hard to kind of pinpoint what my songs are. But I think I'm starting to understand now this type of songs that I love doing the most and the kind of setup that I like the most. So the EP will be basically just a continuation of the latest songs that ended up on the album, I think.
Wonderful. And but for the listeners, and like a lot of my listeners are people who would love to sing and maybe sing as a hobby, or maybe just thinking about learning to sing. I know that you didn't start off believing, you weren't writing music as a child or anything like that, or performing from a very young age, were you?
Not at all. No, I mean, I was into sport when I was a kid, and I was a real tomboy when I was a kid. So I just wanted to be outside climbing walls and playing football and things like that. So I was never part of the school theatre or music group or anything like that. I didn't really get it, but I always felt like I did have a voice, and I was surrounded by music growing up in my family. We moved around different places. My dad is a builder by trade and still is a builder, is still building. And my mom at some stage, she was a radiographer and then became pretty much a full-time builder's labourer. And she's put roofs on houses, built walls, 2 stories high. She's amazing. She can use a power drill, no problem at all. And in our childhood and my youth, we were surrounded by music. So there would always be campfires, there would always be family gatherings, and there would always be music. And their record collection is amazing. So I grew up with like Glenn Campbell, Buddy Holly, Nat King Cole, the Everly Brothers, Simon and Garfunkel, all those really melody-rich songs. They were just basically the soundtrack to our childhood. And I'm from a big Irish English family. On my mother's side, I've got, I think, 45 cousins or something like that. So really big family, and always big family parties. So music was always there. I had it very much in my soul. But I had my first 2 children. I was quite young. I was 24. And then we had a gap, and then I had 2 more. So my 20s and 30s basically were just consumed by being a mom. And in my late 30s, then I started to think more about what I wanted to do for myself, as an individual, we'll say. So I was watching Jools Holland one New Year's Eve, and it was 2011. It was the year of the really bad snow. Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember. It was really, really bad snow. Oh yeah. And I was watching Jools Holland on New Year's Eve, as we did every year. And I always made a New Year's resolution. And that particular year, I made a New Year's resolution to sing, to start to explore this path that I wanted to go on, and that was to sing. And
had you sung anything? Like, I mean, had you done any singing at all before that?
I had. I mean, I'd done but I would describe myself up to that point as, somebody who would say, get up at the end of the night and sing a song, or I'd sung with I'd sung the odd song with a couple of bands, but nothing beyond that really. But I knew that I was able to stand up in front of people and sing, albeit I would have been terrified. Okay. But yes. I had done a little bit at that point. So what I did was, and it's like anything, if your goal is to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, then the first thing you do is you find your nearest, highest mountain, and you make a plan to climb that. And then when you've climbed that, you climb it again. And when you've climbed it again, you maybe climb it one more time. And then maybe you join a club a mountaineering club, and then you meet somebody else who's doing a trip next year to climb Mont Blanc or something like that. And then you go and climb Mont Blanc, and then you meet somebody who's doing a trip the following year to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And before you know it, you're on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, in a few years. And that kind of is how things happen, I think. So I did already have that. I had that drive in me that if you do little things, other things will follow. So what I did was, my neighbour was a member of the Wexford Festival Singers. So he heard me singing in the pub, and he said, "Right, we have to get you in our choir." So I'd never sung in choirs before, and I definitely wasn't. I didn't think that I would be into that kind of music, which was mainly sacred music, and I didn't think it would be my kind of thing at all. So he convinced me to go along anyway, and so I went along, and I was in my, when was that? It was probably my late 30s or 40 or something around that age, and I remember it's a 3-hour session, and I remember the first half. Well, the first thing was I was looking around this room, and there was about 50 people in the room, all very, very experienced singers, quite a lot older than I was at the time. So therefore, all these years of experience behind them, if you know what I mean. And I remember thinking, oh God, this is not for me. I'll just stay till tea break, and you know, I'll kind of make my excuses, and I'll thanks very much. I'll see you again. So it got to tea break, and the people are just absolutely wonderful. The people are just so lovely. They completely disarmed me with their charm. So before I knew it, it was time for the second half, you know, and so I thought, oh God, I'll have to stay. I'll have to stay for the second half now as well. And the chorus mistress was Ethna Corrigan, who is I'm sure you're probably familiar with Ethna's work. She's just incredible. I mean, she's like a superhuman. And I was in awe of her. But my main feeling was, I can't do this. This is way advanced for me. You know, I didn't know what a 4-part choir was. I couldn't read music. They were all so technical and so experienced, you know, and I thought, I can't do this. But in the second half, she got everybody singing together, and I think we were doing the 4A Requiem, and there was a point where all 4 parts sung together. And when I heard that sound of all 4 parts singing together, I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. And I thought, I hopefully they'll let me stay. So I did a little audition at the end of it. And so Ethna said, "Grand, get in there with the altos and work hard, head down, keep practicing, and, you know, we'll see where we go." And they were doing this 4A Requiem in about 6 weeks after I joined. So she said, you know, maybe it's too soon for you to do the 4A Requiem in 6 weeks. You won't be able to learn that, but keep trying and, you know, see how you get on. And I remember thinking to myself, I am going to do it. I am going to do it. I'm going to try my best to be in the best position to do it. So every night I was reading and reading and reading, listening to the tapes, the rehearsal tapes, every single night, trying to learn it and learn it and learn it. And for anybody who's done any big choral work, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to remember it. But you have the book in front of you, so it's not that hard. Anyway, about a couple of weeks before the performance, Ethna said, "I think actually you'll be all right. Would you like to do it?" And I said, "I would." So I did, and I did the first performance with them, and from there I just loved it. I loved it. I was with them for 3 years, I think, 2 or 3 years, and I learned so much. I learned how to read choral music, but the most important thing that I learned from that experience, apart from meeting beautiful people, was to sing with discipline. And to sing with discipline makes the difference between somebody who just gets up and sings in the pub or at a local talent show or something like that, versus the journey which takes you on to a different level. of singing. And that really was for me the start of, I knew that I needed to do that, and that was a big step.
Can I ask you to explain even further what you mean by discipline? Is it to do with practice? Is it to do with how you actually sing the song, like as in you're very concentrating? What does the discipline part mean?
Well, a few things really, but I mean, first of all, at that stage, if you've only ever sung in, you know, family parties or pubs, perhaps one might have bad habits, we'll say. I learned to control the emotion in the voice, to use it to its fullest impact. So to do that, obviously, breathing is a huge part of that. Also focusing on the message of what it is that you're singing. So I did have quite a few bad habits, I'm sure. The other thing that you learn singing in a choir is, if you're sitting beside a tenor who's singing a completely different line from you, you have to stick to your line, and you have to concentrate and work really hard to do that. It's quite a challenge, which is why, of course, being in a choir, in a 4-part choir, is so good for the mind, and it's so good for relaxation, because you are completely switched off from everything else. You have to be, because it's difficult. So I learned to control the emotion in my voice, and I learned how to breathe properly when I'm singing, and I learned how to concentrate on trying to deliver the message of the song. I think that would be how I would summarize the discipline side of things.
That's wonderful. And I know that following that, you did join the National Opera House Musical Society. Is that what it's called? You'll have to remind me.
The Wexford Light Opera. Then
the Wexford Light Opera.
Yeah. So it's like a friend of mine said, if you start singing, then if you start singing with one group, what will happen is, he said, you will end up joining other groups. You'll end up, and simultaneously, you could be member of many different groups. So yeah, what actually happened was, they were doing the show Sister Act, and I just couldn't resist it. I said, oh, I love dressing up as a nun. Anyway, I don't know, I just have this thing about it. I just think they're so funny. They're so funny. It's probably from The Sound of Music, I suppose. But yeah, I love dressing up as a nun, so I have to try that. I have to try and get in. So without doubt, musical theatre, in my opinion, now, not that I've done many performing arts forms or anything like that, but I would say that musical theatre must be one of the most difficult of all performing arts. And boy, did I learn some things there. I mean, I worked with professional musical theatre professionals, and I just couldn't believe the amount of how you have to sing, you have to dance, you have to act, you have to be in character, you have to do all these things simultaneously. And the people who are part of that society, who are the professionals, so they would be the leads and the people who have come from a professional background, I really saw, for those few years that I was part of it, I really saw how hard they have worked to get to that point, and how hard they work every show to prepare, do things systematically and professionally. It was a fantastic experience. And yes, I got in, and I got to dress as a nun. Even though I'm a terrible dancer. I mean, I'm a terrible dancer, but I managed somehow to get in, and probably because they could see how much I wanted it. I really wanted to wear that outfit.
The habit.
So I did the habits. Thank you. Yeah, the habit. And they were amazing as well. They're the fantastic costume department in the Light Opera. And the habit was actually like a proper one. It wasn't like the ones you buy, in the fancy dress shop. It was a proper one with all the different layers and everything. So every night getting geared up, it was a mission. So
wow.
So what? Yeah. So but I was totally unprepared for it. I mean, with the with the choir, I'd sung in the National Concert Hall, we'd sung in the Opera House, but it's a bit different when you are behind a book with a group of people. You know, you're very safe. You're still in your comfort zone. You know, you're surrounded by other people. But when you're doing a show, I was way out of my comfort zone. And that was where my really big my steep learning curve in terms of developing some kind of stagecraft and conquering my stage fright as well. That's where all that happened. On the opening night,
tell me more about that, because I know.
Yeah, on the opening night, so when we did shows, it was 6 nights, so it ran Monday to Saturday. And on the opening night, on the Monday night, obviously everybody's nervous on an opening night anyway. The first scene that I was in, I was with a group of nuns, and we were on the front of the stage. And I remember that first night when I walked to the front of the stage, and I could see the sea of people in the National Opera House in front of me, of 800 or 1,000 people, whatever. And I remember just thinking, oh my God. And I got this paralyzing fear so bad. I thought I was going to kind of collapse or fall over or just I thought I was going to make a holy show of it, if you pardon the pun. So what I did was, we were in a row, and my friend was beside me, and I just linked in with her arm, which was fine because that was kind of in character, because, you know, they're all you're supposed to be a bit kind of, you know, a bit doddery or something like that. So yeah. I just linked her arm, and basically she held me up every night for 6 nights. And that scene, that's how I got through it. That's how I survived it every night. So the show was done, and it was fantastic. It was an incredible experience. It really was. But after that, then I stayed with the Wexford Light Opera, and I went back for more. The next year we did the musical Chess, and Chess is a different thing, a completely different type of show from Sister Act, which was just fun. Chess has some very somber moments, and there's a scene at the end of the show where I was in the chorus, so I was a chess piece, and we were on the stage was a chessboard, and it was slightly sloped forward like that. So when you always had the feeling of kind of leaning forward anyway, so it was a bit unnerving. And the set was very hard, a lot of hard surfaces, so the sound was an issue as well. You're getting kind of strange sounds. But anyway, in this particular scene, which was a very somber scene, I was a black chess piece, and there was a white in front of me and a white one behind. And I got that fear again on the first night, and I thought, oh no. And I couldn't hold on to anybody, because we were literally black, white on a chessboard. You know, I was in my square, and I remember just looking down at my square and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fall. I'm going to just collapse here or something and knock them all over. It's going to be a disaster, and I'm going to ruin it for everybody, and everybody will hate me. You know, it's all this kind of stuff. So that was the Monday night, and I got through it. And then Tuesday night, it was even worse. So I knew that my friend had gone to see a therapist called David Hunt, and he'd helped her with some hypnotherapy when she was it was actually a work-related thing she was doing. She was giving a lecture, and he helped her. So I thought, I'm going to try that. So I rang him, and luckily got an appointment on the Wednesday. And he said, yeah, come on down. And he only lives just like less than a mile from my house. So I went to see him, and I explained the situation, and he said, well, when is this show that you're doing then, Imelda? And I said, it's tonight. It's tonight, and every night till Saturday. And he said, not everybody can be hypnotized. It doesn't work for everybody, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts. You know, I can't guarantee that this will be successful. And I said, look, I'll do anything at this stage. Hit me over the head. I'll do anything. Let's try. So he said, okay. And he began the procedure of hypnosis, and it was quite difficult. I remember to just kind of relax to the point where I was hypnotized. But I do remember I remember it. I remember everything he said. And the message, I remember him saying to me, that you are not perfect, but you are perfectly you. And he repeated that, and he said, you are not perfect, but you are perfectly you. And he said, tomorrow you will feel happier, healthier, calmer. And that was that. And afterwards I did feel really calm, really chilled out after it, I must say. But I was going on stage that night, so I still had to prepare and get down to the opera house by about 5 or 6 o'clock, to do all the preparations. But I did feel really kind of chilled out, I remember sitting in the green room and feeling really chilled out and relaxed. And I was thinking to myself, I feel different. I was confident that something had happened, but I wouldn't know until we got to that scene in the show. And that would be the real litmus test, when I looked down on my white square in my black outfit to see, do I feel like I'm going to fall onto the one in front of me. So that moment in the show came, and I remember waiting in the wings, waiting to go on. And I remember that feeling excited and a bit, kind of nervous, but not. I was okay at that point. And when I got onto stage and the scene started, I looked down at the white square, and I didn't feel like I was going to fall over. And that paralyzing fear that I had the night before and the year before was gone. And I've never had it since.
Wow.
So I still feel when I go on stage that I still feel a little bit jittery, and that kind of good nerves. And I've had times when I've been on stage where I felt very emotional, certainly, usually for different reasons, but I've never had that paralyzing fear of stage fright. And I think that left me that day. And what I learned, I think, was that what had been holding me back was this fear, I suppose, of feeling inadequate, feeling that I couldn't measure up to these people, or I didn't deserve to be there. And I just kept thinking, but you're not perfect, but you are perfectly you. And it made me think that it's all right then to, if you make a mistake, or if you're not actually as good as you think you should be, have a go anyway, just try it anyway. And really from that moment on, I've been stepping out of my comfort zone, not only in music, but in other things too. The following year, I ran my first marathon. And things started to change in business as well. I became more focused on goals in business and more brave, I suppose, in the decisions that I made. And certainly on the music front, from that point, I've been progressing and pushing myself further out of my comfort zone. Because I think probably one of the biggest limiting human factors or emotions is shame, the fear of shame and embarrassment. Mm-hmm. It holds us back in so many ways. It stops us from being brave or doing things that we fear we can't do, or we think we shouldn't be doing, or that we won't be as good as somebody else. It's shame and embarrassment, and that usually is very deep seated in people. And singing can be one of the mediums that you can that can bring you on a journey that takes you out of that place. It takes you to a more, it's a very personal kind of it's a personal development journey, I suppose. It helps you to believe that you can do something that you think you didn't think you could do.
It's beautiful. I really love that as an ethos from my own work as well. I think it's exactly in alignment. When people come to me and they want to sing, I need to let them know that their voice is enough in that moment, because it's like our zero starting point. We want to be ahead. We want to be better before we can be. And it's actually a really important point to go, right, I'm an absolute beginner, or right, I'm not brilliant today, but I'm going to try. And that takes you to the next point. So
Yeah.
And I think in some situations we realize there's a systematic approach, but most people don't take that first step. They don't, walk the mile so that they could walk the 5K, so it's all about taking small steps, and I really admire the journey that you went on, that you followed your heart, because it seems like it's part of you and part of your soul's journey to be doing this.
So. I feel I do feel that I feel like I want to do it all the time. And sometimes even now when I'm doing other things, when I'm working, I'm sort of thinking about, I wonder would a pedal steel guitar go well with that intro, And then you have to bring yourself back to, oh, actually you're on a conference call now with a pharmaceutical company. You can't think about that. But everybody has that, don't we? All have something in our life that's not work, that's our passion, our creative side of things.
Oh, it's beautiful. And when you said it was around Christmas Eve that you made your wish, for me, it was around Christmas time. I had just been in a show in New Ross called White Christmas, and I was actually one of the lead roles, and it was an amazing experience, and it brought me back to that joy that I had felt in singing when I was in my 20s, because I'd been in a show in New Ross then as well. And I just made this decision. I was like, I just want to do more. I want my time to be more around music. And that led to an inspiration to start teaching. And it's been one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done, because now I'm around music more of the time. And I think that following that, it's almost like a feeling of, oh, this is what I want. Am I allowed to want it? Do I have to be like practical, or, am I being silly? And to take a stand and to kind of say, I just want to do it for myself. That takes bravery. And anybody who's starting a singing journey, it does take courage to go, right, I've decided. Yeah,
definitely. And I think, I've been at a couple of your end of term shows, which I really enjoyed. Really, really enjoyed them. I found them a very uplifting experience to be there. And I think what those people do after a 6 or 12-week program, whatever they've done, that they stand up and they sing. Most of them sing solo in front of the people whose approval they probably are seeking the most, which is their family and friends and their other singing buddies. To do that is like, it's incredible. Like, it's a real fast track. It's incredibly brave. But I found it really uplifting to be there, because also I'm sure you found yourself, Aideen, that people often join singing groups or choirs because they might be dealing with other things in their life, a bereavement or a marriage breakup or something. Often they've got other issues going on and they just need something to take their mind off it, and to something that's just for them, that touches their heart and soul. So you probably find yourself part teacher, part therapist, or I don't know, I imagine. But what I saw from your group was that the group become a hugely important support network for each other.
Yeah.
And I saw that many times with your groups. I could see how important they were to each other for support, and they remain friends, don't they?
Yes.
A lot of them remain lifelong friends because what they've done together. They've gone on this. It's like when I ran my first marathon, I remember I was running with a pacer, thinking I only ran with a pacer because I didn't want to be last. And I thought, if I run with the pacer, then I won't be last. And
what's a pacer?
A pacer is somebody who, so they have a pacer who, say, runs it in 3.5 hours, then they have one that runs it in 4 hours, and one that 4:15, 4:30.
Okay.
It usually stops at 4 hours 30 minutes. And me, in my naivety, I'd only decided on the day before to sign up for the marathon. Now I was preparing for one, but there just happened to be one in Wexford, and I just thought, I'm just going to sign up. I'm not going to tell anybody that I'm going to do it. I'm just going to sign up for tomorrow's marathon and see how I get on. So in my naivety, I latched on to the pacer at 4 hours 30, thinking that, well, at least I won't be last if I latch on to them, that group.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that 4 hours 30 is actually a pretty good time, and the Wexford Marathon is really tough. But anyway, at the start, I was chatting away with these guys, and you know, none of us had ever met each other before. And 4 hours and 30 minutes later, we were hugging each other like, you know, we did just achieved the most amazing life goal together. You know, it's just, as human beings, when you go on a really difficult journey with other human beings, it's you form a bond, you know.
Oh,
and
yes.
I think it's the same for your groups.
Oh yeah, I think it's so great, because as adults, when we start something new, we can be more self-critical than we would have been when we were teenagers or kids. We've more self-sabotage, more shame kind of, and more, like you said, a fear of failure. And if singing isn't your thing, but you enjoy running, or you enjoy crochet, or I don't know, there's loads of things that people enjoy doing, but whatever it is, my advice is always, like, don't be afraid to do it wrong for a while until you start doing it right.
Oh, I mean, I've made so many mistakes. I've had so many blunders singing. It's unbelievable. I mean, the more performances you do, the more performances under your belt. Obviously, that you'd be hoping that you get a little bit better each time. But I've had some howlers. I mean,
Don't worry, we don't need to tell everybody. The thing about it is, most people in the audience don't even notice those things, Imelda. Like, how many of those things were actually things that actually ruined the performance? Like, I bet that none of them completely ruined it. Yes,
I would say none. But it's all usually things to do with not being prepared, and then forgetting the words just as you're about to start singing, and that kind of thing, you know. Or usually, it's exactly like you said, though, doing a performance where everybody thought it was grand, but you think yourself, oh, that wasn't good, that wasn't my best, or you know, this kind of self-critical kind of a thing.
I'd love to hear about you know, your first album. That was like, to me, it's like one of my favorite albums to listen to, How to Be Human. And I mean, think of about 4 or 5 of the songs are like really special to me, and I'm really excited to hear what the next album is doing. But I'd love to hear a little bit, we have about another 10 minutes to chat. I'd love to hear about when you brought that album out, and that performance for that album, and what it meant to you, and just what it meant to you, really.
Yeah, that album really was the result of meeting somebody who changed the trajectory of my singing career, or certainly became very much a catalyst for my music. And that's Michael Egan. I met him through the open mic scene, and we started working on songs together. And I remember thinking about doing a gig with other people, and he just said to me one day, "Why don't you do your own gig? Why don't you write your own album and do your own gig?" And it was the first time I thought, God, could I do that? And a year later, we were in the Arts Centre launching How to Be Human, which sold out in 3 days or something like that. Sold out 2 or 3 weeks before we did the launch. And that night was, I'll never forget. It was really, all my family were there, and the people who'd supported me throughout. And that's the other thing. I mean, I've had so much help and support to do what I do now. I've been surrounded by brilliant people. But really the turning point, or the person that really launched me on that kind of trajectory was Michael Egan. And he's a great friend, and has been working with me on the second album too, and is now working with me again on the EP. We're still working on stuff together. He's fantastic.
That's wonderful. And when you signed with the record label, was that a surprise? Like, was that something you were seeking?
I had been thinking about it. I do believe in the music. I believe in this second album. I believe is strong, you know, and I was confident to approach a record label. I was confident enough to try. And I chose this one because I thought we'd be a good match. I thought we'd be a good match, and I sent them some stuff just before Christmas, and then he got back to me and he said, I'd like to talk. We'd like to talk to you. So we had a call like this, and I suppose they want to establish what kind of person are you? Are you kind of just going to give up after this one, or are you a hard worker? Because you've got to be a really hard worker. So I was delighted. Within a couple of weeks, we'd signed up. So, and they're lovely, lovely people. Aideen Collis is the guy who I deal with mainly, and he's lovely. He's a lovely person, very supportive, and doesn't put me under any pressure. You know, if it's not ready, no problem. He'll be ready when it's ready. It has to be right. That's the main thing, you know. So.
And you have been working with some amazing musicians on this new album, right?
Yeah. Since the lockdown, I had to think of another way to finish the album, and actually I was only halfway through it when the first lockdown came around. So I started looking for professional session musicians who were kind of aligned with my style or what I wanted to do, and I teamed up with I've worked with musicians from literally all over the world. I couldn't list them all individually now, but there are about probably 12 musicians, I think, in total on the album. But some of them have played with George Michael, Adele. Wow. They've done tours with Disney. They're really high level professional session musicians, and great. They've been great to work with as well. So I've learned a huge amount from working with them. Again, it's another step up, another step forward.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's very exciting.
And so is the overall sound of the second album going to be different from the first, or is it, what do you think people are going to experience in that?
Most of the songs are now band songs, whereas the first album, a lot of it was kind of acoustic or just, one or two instruments, mainly because it's limited by inexperience and budget as well. So the second album, most of the songs are band songs, so there's more sounds going on. Yeah. And I think the songwriting has definitely developed to another level, but it's still, the essence of it is still the same. It's still very much driven by human stories and very much driven by the people who I've met, and I've learned to listen very closely and very carefully to things that just momentarily pique your interest, like when Danny said to me that the sun, there's nothing special about the sun. It's just an ordinary star, but we think it's special because it's close to Earth. And when he said that, I was like, wow. So that's how Ordinary Star came about. And things that momentarily pique your interest are very important. That's what I've learned.
Wow. Oh, it's just awesome that you say that. So in a few moments, I'm going to play one of the songs from your new album. It's an exclusive sneak peek of your album.
Just for you.
Just for us. So it's the song is called Blue Sky Baby, and it is... Do you want to tell us a little bit about that song?
I wrote Blue Sky Baby when I was in Croatia, sitting by the Adriatic Sea, overlooking the beautiful blue Adriatic Sea, with the sun blazing down, and realizing that summer would soon be over, that's where I was when I wrote the song. It's, I suppose, a kind of a jazz-inspired, just piano vocal, some bare guitar in it, and it's the title track to my album, and I love it. I'm really happy with the song. I hope people like it too.
Oh, I love it. And if people want to sign up for your mailing list or just find out about what you're doing, what ways would you recommend that they stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. You can like my Facebook page, Imelda Kehoe, or imeldakehoe.com is my website. And there's on the homepage there, you can sign up to the newsletter or a mailing list. And the album will be out on Spotify and all the usual release platforms over the summer.
Fantastic. Are you doing a pre-release? Like, are you pre-selling the album, or is that something that you're considering?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet how we're going to tackle that. That will be. The song that we're playing now is probably the album won't be ready for another couple of months for actual release. So this is very much an early preview.
Good.
So we've still got quite a lot to decide in terms of the release strategy. So the label are working on that.
Good. It's nice to have their backup on it, I bet, this time round.
Oh, it really is. It's so important because as a creative writer, promotion generally, it's often not your thing. I don't really like doing that kind of stuff. I like writing and I like singing. I don't really like posting things on Facebook, or it has to be done, but I don't particularly enjoy it,
Yeah.
But it's good to have them.
Great. Well, let's. I'm going to play "Blue Sky Baby" for everybody as at the end of the podcast. I'd like to just thank you so much, Imelda, for all of your insights and sharing your story of how you got started. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I love your voice. I love your music. I can't wait to hear the EP now as well. So now I have a list of things to look forward to from you in the next year or so. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish up?
Yeah, what I would say to your listeners and your students in particular is remember that nobody else has a voice like you. Nobody has a voice like you. Your voice is unique to you. And although you might not be perfect, it might not be the best voice, but it is yours. So don't be afraid to use it.
Brilliant. Love it. Thanks everyone for listening, wherever you are. It's been our pleasure to be chatting together. And if you have any question for me or are interested in singing, you can always get in touch, and definitely sign up for Imelda's newsletter. Make sure she can contact you and let you guys know when her album is ready. So thanks again, Imelda. Take care. God bless and bye-bye.
It's lovely to see you.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Blue sky baby, where have you been to lately? It's been grey above. See, I'm a lot like you. I hide away too from something close to happiness. I could read the New York Times, wanna hear the ocean sigh for the one I love. But I'm not into sentiment, I'm not anything but something close to happiness. Got no reasons to be blue. You're not gonna lose. No. How'd you get so high? Gone where the time goes by. Blue sky baby, before you go away, I've a question for you. Are you something like me? Do you long to be free and something close to happiness? Got no reasons to be blue. You're not gonna lose. No. my blue sky baby, where have you been to lately? My blue sky baby blue.